Ah, good morning. I don't know what's happened to the countdown. Never mind. I am here. Yes, I am Stephen Ridgway, and I really am Stephen Ridgway this time. I'm not pretending to be Rich Benfield or Rich Benfield pretending to be me, even. So, yeah, we're back to where we should be. Right. Anyway, so things cyber. Not a great deal going on this morning, but a few things just to bring your attention to. The atomic macOS Infostealer has now got a backdoor which provides persistent access. So, a recent malware analysis of the atomic macOS Infostealer, which is sometimes referred to as AMOS for obvious reasons, it now comes with a backdoor. Quite how reliable the backdoor will be is that will we will have to see. I believe that it's got limited C2 communication abilities, so it may well be that this will be easy to detect and or turn off. However, it is worth being aware of this because up until this point, the Amos has tended to do its job, and then once removed, remained removed. So the new component, it does the usual things you'd expect from a backdoor. It allows for arbitrary remote commands. It survives reboots. And apparently permits maintaining control over infected hosts indefinitely. I rarely disagree with articles. I rarely disagree. I do actually disagree with articles sometimes, but no, it doesn't allow control over hosts indefinitely. It allows control over hosts until you've detected, contained, eradicated, and recovered from the attack. So we're on the way. Anyway, look, if you're running Macs, if you're using Mac OS, it is worth being aware of Amos, because I know there is still a feeling that Macs are, well, if not immune, certainly much less easy to compromise than Windows machines or to some extent Linux machines. And that may well be true. There's a lot of good architecture in the OS and in the way that security settings are on by default in a lot of cases. Not perfect out of the box, but perhaps not quite as easy to compromise as some other operating systems. That doesn't mean you should be complacent, though, because if you're complacent about these things, you'll probably miss the stuff that really does matter. So anyway, keep an eye on this. Hopefully you are running endpoint protection software on your Macs, and hopefully that will catch this particular piece of malware. Right, and a couple of interesting articles just to finish off with. First one from Microsoft. As a reminder, in August, Microsoft is switching off the ability to use passwords through its Authenticator app. Not only is it doing that, it will delete them. So if you still have passwords stored in Microsoft's Authenticator app, make sure you've exported those and done something with them before August. I can't remember the exact date in August. Knowing Microsoft, it'll probably be a rolling date as devices pick up updates. But passwords, Microsoft are not going to be supporting passwords through the Authenticator app going forward at all. In preparation for that, you will no longer be able to autofill passwords from Authenticator as of now, apparently, with immediate effect. So I think that's aiming to drive what they would hope to be the last few people to get their passwords out of Authenticator before they're lost. I suspect there are going to be many more people that have not done anything about this than Microsoft are assuming, but there we are, we don't know. So yeah, if you're using Microsoft's Authenticator, be aware the removal of passwords is imminent. Autofilling passwords, if it still works now, it won't work in the very near future. The recommendation is, if you insist upon using passwords, move to another password manager. But they say this is an opportunity to upgrade to Passkeys, well, which is all well and good, but I'm 100% certain that your average Windows user doesn't really understand how passkeys work. So that's a subject for another discussion. But yeah, all hunky-dory with passkeys, and yes, they do offer a good level of authentication security. There are situations where whatever you do doesn't matter, so you can't just assume that because you're using passkeys, or as previously you assume you're using MFA, therefore your accounts are all okay. No, they're not, because there are other ways around these things. And the other one is because most people don't really understand how passkeys work. There is a possibility that there will be a whole spate of lockouts associated with where the passkeys actually are stored, and who's got access to them, and so on and so forth. So yeah, expect more in this space, but I think that's probably a subject for a separate podcast. And then finally, from me today, the Taiwanese authorities have been undertaking some quite detailed research into Chinese mobile apps, or popular Chinese apps, and what these apps are actually doing. Now, we're talking about apps like Red Note, Weibo, TikTok, WeChat, Baidu Cloud. So just to set the scene, so that just in case, because there may be the odd person out there that doesn't know this, but any organization in China is legally obliged to hand over to the authorities any information that the authorities ask for. So all the information that is held by any of these apps can be made available to Chinese authorities. Now, obviously, Taiwan, given the fact that China has very publicly declared that they are going to invade Taiwan at some point of their choosing in the not too distant future, the Taiwanese are probably at the forefront of understanding Chinese aggression in this space. What they have discovered is that these apps consistently collect excessive amounts of data from the devices that they are installed on, or from devices where they're used. They all failed the very reasonable sort of 15 standards, to a greater or lesser extent failed the 15 standards that the Taiwanese authorities expect apps to adhere to. Red Note failed all 15 standards. TikTok violated 13 of them. WeChat and Baidu Cloud infringed 10 and 9 standards, respectively. Now, we know that this stuff is going on, and there are various Western countries, US, UK, Canada, India, European Union, have at least issued warnings about some of this stuff. They have also been a series of bans, particularly in sensitive areas in the government and public sector and so on, based around the fact that it is well known that these apps are associated with data theft. However, there's one aspect of all of this that I think ties up with something that I've been concerned about for a very long time, and that's around biometric data. So there is a huge move towards using biometrics for all sorts of things, just globally. Our own law enforcement would absolutely love to track everybody in the UK using this incredibly extensive CCTV network in the UK. We're one of the most surveilled, is that the word? Yeah, countries in the world, I think, at the moment, in that respect. However, there are some restrictions around things like facial recognition being used by law enforcement. Not many restrictions, to be completely honest, but at least it kicks off a storm whenever it comes to the attention of mainstream press. But biometric data is also used for things like authentication. Now, that's a very interesting one. I have always been concerned that if you move to a biometric-based authentication method, once your biometrics have been stolen, anybody can impersonate you. Now, the initial reaction to most developers in this space, I'm absolutely certain will be, well, of course nobody can do that. That's ridiculous. Except it isn't, is it? I mean, we've already shown that various laptops in the past have been very lax around actually signing the data that comes from, say, the fingerprint reader before it goes to the authentication chip. So, the possibilities in those cases, if you could touch the device, you could inject any fingerprint in that you wanted. All you needed to do was have a digital copy of a fingerprint. So there are all sorts of reasons why losing control of biometric data is very worrying. There's a whole raft of identity theft and account takeover that I think is just over the horizon at the moment, or possibly, as with Mr. Punch, it's behind you. So yeah, I think there is going to be more coming in this space. I can't believe I got Mr. Punch into one of these. Oh dear, never mind. Anyway, look, watch out for this stuff. Be aware if you're using these popular Chinese apps, your data is being harvested, it is being held, and it's being held in line with the harvest now, decrypt later approach that the PLA has for, or the Chinese authorities have for, especially Western data. It is the object of the exercise is disruption later on. Disrupting individuals is remarkably, if you can disrupt individuals en masse, it makes life very difficult for authorities or governments to keep control of the narrative within their own countries, so on and so forth. So yeah, very interesting article, certainly something that is worth reading about if you are in any way concerned, as I am, with this stuff, and definitely worth having a think about what controls there are around your biometric data. Well, that's all from me for today. I hope you have a good